we go. What's up, Jet Team? Ryan here. So excited that you're here. This channel is all things aviation. If you haven't been here before, I'm a former F-15E combat fighter pilot, F-16 Thunderbird pilot, and current commercial pilot. And someone on the BJet Clean Instagram asked me to break down some Thunderbird footage. I want to give you more than you expect. So this series is going to be me training you to become a Thunderbird demonstration pilot. My last year or so on the Thunderbirds, I was an instructor pilot creating more Thunderbirds. So now I'm passing that knowledge on to you. We're gonna watch never before seen Thunderbird training videos, and these are the videos that I actually use to train other Thunderbirds. So you know what they say, with great power comes great responsibility. Spider-Man, great film. But your great responsibility right now is to dominate that like button for me, and hey, maybe even subscribe. Every time you like and subscribe, a pilot somewhere gets their wing. Now this is a series, guys, of instructional videos on how to become a Thunderbird pilot. So make sure you watch all the videos in that series so that at the end of this, I can certify you and sign you off as the newest Thunderbird pilot. With that said, let's dive into this instructional lesson. This is part 3 on how to become a Thunderbird fighter pilot. Here we go. Now the big thing is to make sure at all times you're tucked in to that formation position. If you feel like you're out of position, you gotta fight. So you gotta have this mentality inside of you that's like, it's not good enough to be a foot wide. You know, you have to constantly be a pit bull without the chain and just get into formation position. It's like, I like to think of it as controlled aggression, where you're constantly in a cage fight, but you're striking at the appropriate times so that you're not overcorrecting and putting yourself in a position where you might smack into another aircraft. Now, some people have asked me, do Thunderbirds hit? It is very rare for Thunderbirds to hit. But what you're gonna see here soon are some formation positions that it can be more likely to hit. Because at the end of the day, if you're not that controlled aggression type pilot, if you're not able to be very assertive and aggressive with the aircraft, you might hit. I'll tell you some stories down the road here in a second about sometimes when that almost happened. But at this point right now, as you can see, we're maneuvering around this mountain and we're setting up for the next maneuver. A lot of times we'll probably chat like, hey, what do you need more practice on? What can we do today to establish greater ability to achieve a certain maneuver? And again, it's small little steps, moving yourself forward a little bit at a time to get there. And again, guys, I'm not gonna edit a lot of this out. I think this is great for you to see. Setting ourselves up for what I think is the bonton roll. Let's see here. I'm looking to make sure we have the right distance so that we can do an aileron roll. Boom. The key there is going full stick deflection. So when you go full stick deflection, you should all have relatively same roll rates. And ultimately, you all want to be at the same point in space at each checkpoint. So the boss is going to say, smoke off, ready now, and roll. So then you're going to do that max deflection roll. And that's what you just saw there. One of the most fun maneuvers once you get it down correctly. And then you've got to lead the rollout as well so that you don't overshoot. The goal is to be rolled out almost directly on the horizon, and I think I did a decent job there. It looked like number 3 did really well with that. That's a fun one. Now here it's kind of like finding your happy place. Again, some guys and gals will sing songs. They'll have different songs in their head as they kind of go through these different positions, because the whole time your arm is holding roughly 30 to 35 pounds of pressure, because you do what's called trim full forward. And the reason you do that is so you have some tension on your hand the entire time, because the F-16 seeks stability. It just wants to be stable. It's essentially an all-electric jet. Now we're rolling in to trail, pass, and review. I'm aligning up at the top. You can see there is some lines up there. There's a little V formed at the front of the cockpit. It's a white kind of arrow that points back towards the intake, and I'm aligning that right now, and I'm trying to be as smooth as possible because there's two other aircraft next to me, and they're gonna feel every single ripple that I feel times 2 for the jet right behind me and times 4 for that other jet. It's gonna be a bigger correction for them than it is for me. Such a beautiful day. Flying fighter jets on a blue sky day. Doesn't get much better than that. But actually the clouds right there too, you want some clouds, especially when you're doing some sort of aerial photography, because it just gives depth to the scene. So this is kind of like a perfect shot right here that you would want if you were photographing these jets. So there's the speed brakes coming out. So boss is putting out the speed brakes. Next is gonna come the gear. And we're gonna do the high-low hit, I believe, where a solo is gonna fly right through the middle of our formation. Putting the speed brakes out with the same cadence is key. You can see there, I'm a little late to get the gear down, and that's gonna make me shoot forward a little bit, and now I'm kind of playing catch up because the throttle's at idle, speed brakes are out. The boss's speed brakes are in just a little bit, which is good because then I can go to full and have a little bit of an advantage to get slowed down. So there's little tricks like that that the boss will do to help us all out. And now we're looking strong. You can see shaking my head, yes, enjoying that. Got the gear down, and now we're gonna separate a little bit. So number 3 and 4 are gonna drop down slightly, and then one of the solos is gonna blast through. This is a fun one, and the handling characteristics of the F-16 are different at different speeds, and it goes into different flight modes, like when you have the gear down. So this one, what I noticed is the controls just get a little more mushy throughout it. So just takes a little bit of practice, but it's kind of like flying a different airplane. There goes the solo. You could kind of see him pass right behind the boss, and again, it's all set up so that show center sees the solo pass directly in. There goes the gear up, and you want to time that exactly the same as when the boss is doing it so you don't overshoot. And there we go, gears up. Number 3 and 4 are going to tuck it back into formation position. That was really smooth. That was well executed. So that's exactly how I want you to execute it when you strap into your next fighter. All right, so now it's back to the basics, man. And that's something that I would always constantly do. It's kind of like a little cross check. And a cross check is essentially just certain things that you go back to as stakes in the ground. So my cross check now is the front of that missile row, the little arrowhead, making sure that's in the right position, the back of the arrowhead in the right position. And then I want to see the correct amount of depth. So I don't want to be too low because then I can be a factor for number 4. So constantly going back to formation position. And that's something that'll keep you in a solid position throughout your demonstration. It's kind of like you're never off. You're always seeking that position. It's never like, oh, okay, this is easy, because you're gonna hit pockets of air. You're gonna be going over different types of terrain. You can get, different types of airflow that'll come off of like a solo jet that's in front of you. So you really just gotta be constantly that pilot who's never settling for mediocre. You'll never accept a mediocre formation position. Here we go, doing a pass. We're coming in probably at about 500 miles an hour right now. The smoke's on, as you can see. Just, yeah, there's a shadow coming up. I mean, you can see like pretty good position there. Everybody's looking solid. It's cool too seeing your shadow on the ground. I don't know why, but when you're doing this maneuver and you look down and you see your shadow, it's like, wow, we're up here in 4 fighter jets, representing. It's an awesome feeling. And again, when it comes to aerial photography, like the contrast, you can see the contrast of the white part of the jet there with kind of the dark brown background. that's another position you want to be in to take a photo. So something that I'm always thinking about too, because I was the photo officer for my last year on the team as well, was, what backgrounds look the best for the aerial photography of the team? What kind of contrast do we need? The lighting right here is really good as well, because the lighting's like shining on the planes. You can see it hitting my helmet as well. So it's kind of making everything pop, making it a little brighter. And then, below my neck there, that's not in the light, obviously. So that's not what you want. You would want the light shining up. So you want to position the photo jet above that. And again, this is training, guys. So we're set up for the next maneuver. We're gonna go through different training things. So this is footage that you'll never see anywhere else, guaranteed. So when it comes to training, it's all about keeping a positive mindset. You don't want to get down on yourself. You want to focus on the next maneuver. When I was an instructor for the Thunderbirds, if someone were to do poorly or, God forbid, someone washed out or something like that, it was typically because they got down on themselves and got into what I call a downward spiral, where a mistake would make another mistake and it would just continue to get worse and worse. There's ways to stop that. And I think the best way is just to try to move on as fast as you can. So redirect your energy to the next maneuver. Now, maybe you can apply that to whatever job you're working on. Maybe it's something that can help you in your life. Ultimately, I like to deal with things, address them, don't ignore them, don't pretend like something doesn't exist, but then try to move on and not hold on to mistakes. And that's something that'll help you on your journey towards becoming a Thunderbird pilot. So stay tuned for this series. We've got a few more lessons to go before I can officially sign you off. Before you go though, for this video, please go ahead, dominate that like button for me, maybe even subscribe. Stay tuned for the next round of training videos. Most of all, have a great day.